Okay, in the first lecture we went over how to create a class, what's inside of a class, right? We have attributes and we have functions. So this is again, the class is the combination of data and functionality all in one object. We also created a class called Stickman, and then we lightly manipulated that just to kind of demonstrate how a class works. That's kind of the basic gist behind it. Now let's go over another more realistic example, like actually a more functional example, closer to kind of what you'll be doing this week in your homework. And what I'm going to do here is let's create a class called student, and we'll apply some different attributes and functions to this student class object, and then use it. So, all right, again, let's define our class. So we'll say class student, and we'll say object. Okay, let's give it a docstring. Now, let's put that initialization function in here. So def underscore underscore init. All right, now this time, notice I'm putting self and then a comma because I'm going to have another variable go in here. So we'll say first name and last name. So it's a little different, but watch what happens here. So we'll make some attributes here. Self first name equals first name. So what's going to happen here is when this function initializes along with the instantiation of the object, it's going to expect two variables to be provided at the time that it's instantiated so that it can assign those first one here to the object's first name. So this is the first name that comes when the class is instantiated, and that drops down, and then we have that same variable here, and then we're assigning that variable to be an attribute of this object. So let's continue on here with last name. Now there's I could have this could be foo and this could be bar, and I could just assign them there because remember this is just variable names here. And let's create another one here because what we're going to do is we're going to have our student object be able to track the assignments and grades of that user. So we'll have let's create a dictionary object here called assignments, and we'll say make that our dictionary. Okay, so we've got this class here, right? What's it going to do? As soon as we instantiate this class, it will create this object called student type object, and it'll have the properties of a first name, a last name, and a dictionary of assignments that we can apply grade values to. So I'll go with that key value pair for grade assignments. Well, how are we going to get those grades in here? Well, we'll need to create a function for that. So we'll say create one called add grade. And let's say we'll need the assignment, right? And we'll need a grade. And let's put our assignments in here, and real simple. I'll just say assignment here again for the key, and then we'll assign the grade value to it. Real simple function. Okay, now let's use that little trick again with the if underscore underscore name underscore underscore equals underscore main. Right, so this will allow us to execute code within this file if we're executing it directly, but if we ever wanted to import this we could import it without executing this, because if you import, it won't be named main anymore. All right, so let's instantiate students. We'll have column student1 equals. Now here's where it's a little different than what we did with Stickman. Stickman didn't have any variables that were required when you instantiated it, right? It just used self. But for this one, since we need first name and last name, I need to apply those here. So we'll say student, and now I'm going to put a first name in there. So I'll just say Clayton, and then last name Kramer. All right. Okay, now, so I've created that student object. Let's just go ahead and save that and execute it. Okay, so it executed cleanly, but it just doesn't display anything right now. If I wanted to see that, I could say print student01. If I wanted to see just the first name, there we go. Save it and F5. So my object's been created. Now let's do something else here. Let's go ahead and say, well, what do we want to do with grades? We want to be able to display grades along with adding them, right? So we'll say display grades, and for this one, we'll just go with self, right? We don't need anything. This will be sort of like an internal method. Okay, now let's think about this for a second. There's the potential that if I went to display grades without anything in there, that would be very helpful to the user, and the user probably wants some feedback. So what I can do here is I can just say, just go ahead and take that length here and say self assignments. If that's less than 1, then let's just print out a message to the user. Say, no assignment grades to display. Just something like that, just to clue the user in that nothing's actually loaded yet. Else, let's just quickly iterate through our key pair here. So key value. Oh man, I can't type right now. Value in self assignments, and then view our iter items. Okay, and then just say print key, comma, value. Real simple. I mean, we could get all fancy with the formatting of this, but leave that up for another time. So let's go back down here, save it, F5 to run it. Okay, runs clean, but let's go ahead and say add grade. So we could say task 01, got 87 on it. Oh man, let's not make that a print statement, because that'll just return like a null, because there's nothing's being returned by those definitions of functions. So let's say student 01, add grade, task 02. Let's say he got 98 on that one. And let's just add one more. And we'll say something went wrong on that assignment. I only got a 78. Okay, so we got some values in there now. Save it, F5. Oop. Student has no assignments. Uh-oh, got a misspelling in here. Assignments. There it is. Now, this brings up a good point when you're working with your classes. And functions, you might have seen this already, but notice how I was running this, before, and that error, a typo was in there, but nothing bad happened. Not until I actually tried to call that method did Python give me an exception saying, hey, I don't know what you're talking about there. And that's because, with the while the code's being interpreted, it actually isn't trying to execute anything until you call that specific function. And is when it called that function is when it threw the exception for me. So we'll say Control S to save it, F5 to run it. Okay, now we're good again. So I've got values in here, and if I wanted to, right, I could actually print those out. Student 1 and assignments. Save it, F5. So there, what we're seeing here, right, is that dictionary object that we've been adding values to that is within this object called variable named student01, which is a built on the class object of student. All right, let's go a little further here. What else can we do? Well, we've got the grades in there. How about we come up with an average grade? So let's create another function within this class called average grade. And again, it doesn't actually need any variables because we can pull the variable essentially from an object's own attributes, which are, again, these variables that we have here assigned to it. Okay, let's see, same thing could happen here, right? If we call average grade before we've loaded anything in there, I'm going to need to kick out a statement to the user. So again, let's do a length self assignments, close that, say less than 1, print a little message here. Yeah, something like that. Okay, we got now our else. All right, well, we want to create a quick sum of all of those values within our key pair. So what we could do is we just say print, give me the sum of self assignments. Now, remember from our dictionaries last couple weeks, there's different methods you can call in dictionary, right? And dictionary object. So the dictionary object class has functions within it, right? Those methods. And I can call one right now, which is called just give me values back. I don't care about the keys. I just want values. All right. So close quote for the sum, and then let's. We need to wrap this up in a float here, right? So, in case I get a decimals, and let's take the length of our self assignments. Yep, we're good there. And let's hop down here, and we'll say student 01 average grade. See, that's what that looks like, right? That's just a closed parentheses because I don't need to pass any variables to it. Actually, if I do, it's going to complain. It's going to throw an exception because right here, right, the only thing going in there is the object itself. So let's Control S, save it, F5 to run it, and there is our output. Actually, I can just go ahead and take that one out, clean that up. All right, so what we've got going on here now is, we've got our student class, and it comes with these functions. Now it's got these attributes. What else could we do with this? Oh, oftentimes what you got to do, right, is you got to join up the names, because sometimes you want the first name and last name, but maybe you want to make like a display name. So here we can make another one that does that. Let's say call it display name self, and we'll say print, and let's just do a little quick formatting job here. There we go. So we'll just print out the name. We'll have a little bit of space in there. This is always what's nice to kind of have when it comes to names, right? And if you wanted to get deeper in this, right, you'd have some attributes in there to hold middle names, and then you can get even more complicated because, right, not everybody has just 2 or 3 names. Some people have, maybe even 5 components to their full name. So you'd have to come up with some kind of method that maybe packs away their different internal middle names into a list, right? And then you'd have to unroll that list and put it all back out. So you can see how an object can have these different properties to handle all these different situations that you may have to throw at it. So let's see, we'll say student 1 display name. Ooh. Student object has no attribute display name. I'm spelling again. There we go. Okay, Control save, F5, and presto. Alright, let's think about this a little bit more. What else could we do with this? Well, we can load students in here, but what if we needed something like maybe to track them in the term? Well, this gets into the thing where we can actually, they're just objects, just like anything else, so we can pack them into something else. So I could create another, like a object here, and the purpose of this object will be just to hold students. So we'll say term, call it term. We'll say object docstring just a little something here. Okay, and let's go ahead and initialize. We'll call this one students, and we'll make this one a list, right? And we'll do the same sort of pattern we had up there, right? We'll say add student self, and then we'll have a variable named student, and this will just append it. Now, the examples I'm giving here, these are just bare bones appending and stuff like this. If we were writing an application for real life, you need a lot more error checking here, right? Making sure people aren't sending the wrong information in here, or nulls or empties or things like that. So you end up taking something simple like this and having to wrap 15 other things around it to protect it and make sure that it gets used properly. But all we're going to do here is we'll have another type of object called term, and the purpose of a term here is to hold students. Let me see here. Let's go create one called term, and I'm going to instantiate it here. This one doesn't require anything up here when it's initialized. All right, so I don't have to put any variables here. And I'll just say term students. Well, here I could do it like this, right? I created this one called add, so I could do the add student, and I'll just say student 01. Right, I can pack student 01 in there. All right, Control save, F5, executes cleanly. But here's another way I could do this. I'm going to go really kind of shorthand here. I can, what if I wanted to instantiate another student? Um, right. So I could do it like this again. Term add student student02. So that's one way to put them in there. Another way I could do it is, remember, I talked about how these are attributes, and so that means this is an attribute and it's just a list. So I could use dot notation to append something to it. So I could go like this. I could say students dot append student 02. And that works the same way. There is a concept of, in Python, like other languages, where you can say, like, I don't want my some of these attributes to be accessible from outside the object. And in Python, you do that by um, putting an underscore in front of it, and that kind of tells the program that this is only accessible from within this object. Okay, well that's it for a second lecture here, just kind of going over a more practical example, something similar to what you'll be doing this week in your assignments.